Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Hello, I'm Wimsaur of Wimsaur.com, and today I'd like to talk to you about the fifth Hermetic principle, rhythm, as told by Kybalion by 3 initiates, which is to everyone's value to actually read that book. It has changed my life, and especially anyone who's interested in any type of magic. This will give you an intellectual basis to understand magic, because there's a lot of stuff in magic that's really not intellectual, but at least my mind will get in the way unless it has some idea of what's going on. But rhythm, why do we care? Well, we care because rhythm does manifest in everything. It even manifests in atoms. An electron goes around a proton, and around a proton, and around a proton, and thus there's a rhythm to that. A sinusoidal wave, if you will. This manifests, of course, in the tides, which goes out and in, by the pendulum swing, which the measure from the left is the measure to the right. It always compensates. The only thing that will take that away in this case is gravity, as gravity wants to pull it down. But the rhythm itself is always present. In fact, we should care because we have rhythm as well. And I'm not talking about rhythm on the dance floor, which would be included. I'm talking about from a day-to-day point of view. If we begin a project, we'll call that the new moon, just for the hell of it, okay? Maybe we first start off by planning the project, okay? So we make a plan. Then perhaps we might even abridge the plan to make, I guess, goals and smaller goals so we can manage it a little easier. But we always have a point where we have nothing, at least when we're actually working on something. Then gradually, as we work and work, we come closer to finishing it. And in the case of my job, once I finish one assignment, which would be the culmination, we'll call it the new moon, and some of you will get that, some of you won't. But once I get to the culmination of my work, I start again, and I have to get another project and work on it, and work on it, and work on it, until I finished. Oh, there's another one. Now, I'm only talking about beginnings and endings, but I assure you, those are still parts of rhythm. You'll actually find, if you actually look, and I'd recommend keeping a diary so you can actually take a look at like your moods over time, or pretty much anything over time, really. If you're a magician, definitely you want to keep a record of everything. By keeping a record, you can start to look for trends in your behavior. Trends, physical trends, emotional trends, intellectual trends, and then after you get to know it, intuitional trends. This is part of the basis of astrology. I mean, I'm sure there are people that believe the planets really are affecting us. And from a point of view of gravity, they are. Just kind of on a minute, next to nothing, negligible scale. That's my physics background. But if you look at astrology as the solar system being a clock, then it's not really necessarily the planets that are affecting us. But the planets do act as the hands and, I guess, numbers on a clock. So we can actually start to see that there are even cycles in our solar system, cycles on our planet that seem to repeat over and over. I'll give you a really easy cycle. We're going to start off at midnight. when the sun is right beneath the earth, right beneath my feet and beneath the earth. Then the sun gradually moves around us. Yes, I know we rotate around the sun, but by the fact that we're spinning, both points of view are technically valid, but for math reasons. But stay with me here. First, the sun is right beneath us, and it gradually moves, and we start to see it rising in the east until it's right above us at noon, and then it sinks or sets in the west until it's at midnight again. And this is just the cycle of the day. Easy stuff. And the cycle of the year, the amount of time it takes for the earth to go around the sun once. Astrology kind of adds some depth to that. If you actually start to think about astrology beyond thinking that it's just the planets influencing us, but that astrology is a convenient way to see, I guess, universal abstractions that just seem to come back into our lives, astrology becomes more valid. And I'm not even talking natal charts. I'm just talking about just the cycles of the solar system, how certain energies come about, which of course also correspond with the seasons. Come the vernal equinox, when the earth starts waking up, we start seeing flowers bloom, plants bloom, whatnot. We start to actually maybe even feel a sense of relief that the winter is over. This is just part of the cycle of the year. It's very basic stuff. But for many of you, and maybe most of you, if not all of you, may, if you keep records, start to see that more and more, maybe there's a point in the year that maybe you don't feel well or you have a bad mood. And maybe you just chalk it up to, I'm just in a bad mood. There's no reason. I just am. Bullshit. There's definitely a reason that you're in a bad mood. Now, if you take the time to know yourself, you eventually will start to see why you're in bad moods, or good moods for that matter. There's nothing that will manifest in your life that is beyond your control. Scratch that. There's nothing that'll manifest in your life that comes from you that is beyond your control. Clearly, things happen. And if you prefer to think of it as the god of chaos or just God throwing something in front of you, why not? Yes, there's always things that are not in your control. But you are in control of you. Or at least, you have the option of controlling yourself should you man up and actually take control. The advantages of this are many. That was my cat feeder. I got it so I can go on vacation. And it speaks to my cat so he comes running for the food. It's going to speak in a minute again, but don't mind it. Okay, learning the cycle. It's over. I've already restarted this a couple times, so we're going to go with it. The advantage to learning the cycles within you are several. One, you can break the cycles within you. If at the same time of year you're always in a bad mood and you start to notice this and you take the time to figure out why, you now have the power to at least know why. And once you know why, you can make a plan. And once you make a plan, assuming you follow it, you can break a cycle. Or you can start a cycle. Ever heard of habits? I think of habits as sort of the mental equivalent of the physical law of momentum. Once something starts in motion, it tends to stay in motion unless acted upon externally. Or, if something is at rest, it's going to stay at rest unless acted upon externally. Habits. Once you start the habit, it'll pretty much kind of go on its own steam until you stop. And this is sort of another version of the cycle. You can start habits and you can actually make habits like a more routine. We'll use routine. That might be very useful. Like, I have a routine when I wake up every morning. I go and meditate on my own thing. It's, private. Then typically I'll shower, shave if necessary, get dressed, go to work. It's a routine. It's just what I have. It works out very well. It keeps me, the meditation part keeps me sane, and the shaving and bathing part keeps me nice and clean. That way, if people are around me, they're not going to complain about how I smell. Now, then there are bad habits, which I have plenty of. I watch too much TV, for instance. This started at a very young age where I just enjoyed watching TV. And that habit is still with me, and I am conscious of this, and it's just a question of actually doing something about it, preferably when there's nothing good on. But you can also make habits that are good for you. Diet is a really good example. If you have a crappy diet, perhaps it's worth your while to investigate what might be a good diet, and preferably something that's easy, at least to begin with, so that every day maybe you just cut up some vegetables and saute it. And if you're not good at this, I guarantee you'll become good at it by just doing it every day. You kind of have to find the rhythm in it, however. The rhythm will just kind of show you that you'll have good days and bad days. I drive a manual transmission car. I don't do so because it costs less. I do so because I like driving a manual transmission. I've been driving one roughly for 17 years, or one manual or another. And I get to tell you, some days I stall out. I mean, it's rare that I stall out, but it happens. And it's like I'm just not in the rhythm. I'm just not, I guess, in the right space to be driving a manual that day. Like, something's off. I'm just not going with the car. Is anyone that drives, assuming you guys drive, you probably know that you kind of get a sense of the noise of your car, kind of almost at a subconscious level. So that some days, for you people that drive a manual, you just kind of shift like you're just driving. You don't have to think about it. Then there's the other day where it's like, something just off. This will be true of sports as well. For those of you that play sports, do martial arts, anything physical, some days you just got bad days where you just can't do anything right. Maybe you're being a little klutzy. It's important to understand that that's just part of the rhythm of it, because you're also got the good days as well. By plotting these cycles, you can learn that these can be to your advantage. The days where you can't speak, like, maybe it's just best to stay at your computer if you have an office job and just kind of type. And I think that might be a different part of your mind than actually speaking. That is not the type of science that I'm very knowledgeable in, really. But on the days when I can speak, that's the days where, if I have something to do that requires speaking at work, I should go ahead and do that. I don't have to public speak for my job. But if I discover that some days I'm just going to be talking like Porky Pig, I'm probably going to try to plan around that, assuming I've already figured out what that cycle is. On days that I'm on my game, that I can speak really well, that's the day I'd want to plan for speaking. I can be a moody person too. You guys don't see that part. You guys just see my chipper self. But I assure you, I can be just as much of there's a word that begins with an A that comes to mind. I assure you, I definitely can be an asshole. But that's part of my cycle as well. And sometimes I shrug it off. But don't shrug it off. Become aware of your cycles so you can use them to your advantage. Also, pay attention to the cycles of the moon. Some of us, or at least half of us, probably can pay attention to it better than the rest of us. If you can actually get yourself onto the same cycle of, say, the moon or the sun, then it's easier to tweak the cycles. And it's even easier to just do things when you're at the high point of your cycle. In magic, it's always recommended to start something new at a new moon. And then the energy sort of gains strength. So by the time full moon happens, you should be pretty much finished. And then you pretty much let your subconscious take over at that point. You don't usually want to start on a high note. You want to end on a high note. You start on a low note and build yourself up over time. Then the high note, that's the right time to exit. That's why if you see like a band that's doing really well and they're just really getting everybody pumped up and people are excited, that is when they will finish up their set. They put their best songs at the end. They know people love that the best because they know they're going to get the best response out of people. Then, once they're at that high note, now they go off stage and either party, go home, or do whatever they do. Comedians, at least the ones that actually tell jokes and not the ones that tell long stories that may be funny at the end, will try also to end on a high note. It's like they kind of build up some suspense. So you're listening, you're enwrapped, you're paying attention, and then boom, they make the delivery of the actual punchline because they're relying on these cycles. They understand the rhythm. So I suggest to you, learn your rhythm. Know when it's a good day, I'd say. Know your good days from your bad days. Keep notes. If you find it helpful to follow the course of the moon, do that. It's already there, up in the sky. It's not going away. At least it's probably not going away. The sun, the year, these are other things that can actually help you. If astrology's not your thing, months. I mean, we're in February now as I record this, and typically it's cold, but we're having a warm winter. But generally speaking, where I live, I can count on it being cold. That's just the cycle of the year. But I have them too. I have my good days and bad days. And so do you. Well, this is a very abstract thing, so I'm going to go just a little bit more abstract. What else have rhythms? Well, for anybody that is up on history, you will see that nations have rhythms as well, or cycles. They start off small, say the United States where I live. It starts off small, only a couple of colonists here and there. Then the colonies build, and eventually we have what we have today. We're pretty much not going to get any more powerful than we are now, unless the United States decides they want to become an empire and start conquering. But as long as they're pretending to be a republic, as long as we're a republic, we're probably at the peak we can really go right now. We have the entire continent, and we've developed most of it. So what else is there? Well, look at Rome. Rome started off small as well. Then it got really big. And then it pretty much died. Not right away. Rome still exists, the city, but not the empire. That's gone. Look at any empire or any civilization in history. They all rise, get to a peak, and then they fall. It just is going to happen no matter what you are. That's just life. Age. You start off as a baby, then you grow to become an adult, then maybe because you slouch like me, you may compress your lower back and maybe you start to shrink a tad. And then, look at another way. You start off as a child, you become an adult at your prime, and then gradually, maybe some of your faculties start to go away. Definitely, usually for most people, there's strength in their bodies. Until it's just time to die. Nothing wrong with that. That's life. In fact, I wouldn't want any other way than that. That's everything. Is born, becomes, an adult, and then dies. The galaxy itself started probably small, got really big as it is now, and the galaxy, I assure you, will one day be gone. The current Big Bang Theory says that we had a Big Bang, that everything's moving away from each other, and that someday everything will be too far away and the universe will pretty much be dead. But that's just a theory. It's not definitive yet. Mostly definitive. But there's so much for us to learn. But look around. Just look around at the cycles you see, at the rhythm you see. Because a cycle is essentially, if we look at a sine wave, we know we're going to have a peak on the top and a peak on the bottom. So it's more like this. That's the circle, really. The circle starts here and goes around. So from a linear way, it keeps on going like this. But look for cycles. See if you can change the cycles. See if you can start new cycles, and see if you can end cycles. I assure you, the power is within you. And as always, if you would like a reading, come on over to Wimsaur.com and email me, send me a message, and we set up an appointment today. Once again, I'm Wimsaur of Wimsaur.com, and take care.